like the Royal Angling Society. But we do have our own little idiosyncrasies. And Mickey's first angling encounter with us in 2005 was one of those special introductory experiences. And he soon learned that the first rule of being a pescador was how to learn not to fish in a proper and ungentlemanly fashion. He had duly arrived at the appointed hour on the River Stidger, which is near Ballantrae, for those of you who have never been out the Stewartry. And there a motley crew was already assembled. And Mickey was not too put out by the fact that the fishing captain of the day, someone called Large William, who some of you know, and if you ever meet him you will know who we're talking about, because he's just a big boy. And Large William had declared that the river was unfishable, it was in full flood, and it would be too dangerous to fish. What he didn't tell Mickey was that it's sometimes more dangerous not to fish with this crew. And so it was that the fishing hut was set up as a command centre from which to watch the river just in case it became fishable at any point. This necessitated the opening of several bottles of whisky, cases of wine, and sundry soft drinks like lager and cider. And that was to improve the avid river watchers' sensibilities, which I believe it did not. He was also introduced to the dubious charms of one of the most annoying little men God has put on this earth, in the form of a guy called John Sharp, who, again, some of you will know, but if you ever met him, you will know who I'm talking about, because he just is a annoying little shit. And one of the other, he's now 85, this guy, and he's still annoying, so, you know, that must be one of the secrets of longevity, as Andrew Dunlop's found out. You just become annoying all the time. He also met another older gentleman called Alec Kerr, who some of you may remember as being the manager of the Great Glen Cattle Ranch, which if you go up past Lochaber, you can still see the remnants of that yet. And I can't remember whether it was at that outing or whether it was the next one. These things kind of tend to fade given the age that we are and the amount of drink that was taken. But I think Mickey was party that night to the sight of Large William in the bar, dressed in the landlady's wedding dress. Well, it was Halloween after all, and the vision of that, not only did it remain imprinted in my mind, but it would have spawned a fold. I hope that woman did not claim in her insurance. The fact that her wedding dress fitted Big Willie tells you the kind of, you know, she must have been at least 24 stone. And she even made Mickey look like Twiggy. On another occasion on the Stidger, I had brought down a brand new Volvo XC90. They were brand new at the time, that was the first ones in Scotland, as a test vehicle. One lesson that I learnt that day was never to allow Mickey to fall asleep in the car with a glass of red wine in his hand and the radio on. This necessitated much scrubbing of the now purple white leather and a flat battery, which meant the local gillie had to be summoned to jump-start the vehicle, who was totally aghast at the fact that there was things called jangly metal and worms on board, because the Stidger was a strictly fly-only river. However, no insurance claim was made, you'll be glad to know. Later that evening occurred an incident which will be glossed over at this time, which resulted in us not being invited back to the Stidger by Lord Durer's factor, who was one Donald Bigger at the time. I should point out that Mickey, while he may have been witness to said incident, or should I say incident, was mostly innocent. This incident was uninsurable against. More worrying and embarrassing event involved a vehicle during one of our infamous trips to the Noidart Peninsula in Lochaber. Again, I had purloined a test vehicle by duping the PR from Land Rover into thinking that I was taking this vehicle to one of the most picturesque and remote parts of the British Isles for photography. This was one of the last Land Rover Defender 110s to come off the production line, and they thought it was a wizard wheeze to allow us to take this away for a week and fill it full of booze and all sorts of stuff and take it to Noida. Being a trusting sort of chap, i.e. I was still in my bed counting sheep, or maybe I had a sheep and then I can't remember, when the guys left to fish the next morning, and I had entreated Michael and his two companions of the time, Andy and Adam, otherwise known as Uncle Fester and Fluffy. Fluffy's a very nice boy. He's Mickey's favourite. I entreated them to take some pictures of said vehicle in a suitably butch and grandiose environment. On their return, they informed me that all was safely in the camera's memory, and they would send me the pictures when I get home. Thinking this was the job done, I stupidly trusted them. So for my article in the Scottish Farmer about this sturdy vehicle and the wonders it performed while on test with 8 burly guys and assorted fishing tackle and the odd provision, I duly opened up the pictures that they'd sent. Now, Anne will testify that the sight of Mickey's bare arse in various poses around the vehicle was not an edifying sight that I would like to include in the pages of the Scottish Farmer. There may even have been one of Mickey slapping one of the bare arses about the posterior with an 8-pound salmon. Pictures are available of this on select websites, which most of you are already probably aware of. But I should warn you, for those of you who have been to Mickey's for something to eat, that salmon ended up in his freezer. Now, as an insurance agent, which I think he probably was most of the time, Michael, of course, took great pride in being a safe driver. It was one of his boasts that he had a clean driving licence and had never been involved in a real accident. And so it was with huge embarrassment that he drove the next test vehicle to Noida, an Isuzu pickup truck, into a ditch during the Noida rush hour. He was the only one on the road. Mickey's eye may have been taken off the road by the sight of a roaring stag, or he may have been looking out through the sunroof at a soaring eagle, or I suspect he maybe was just pissed. But off the road he went, full in, never to be taken out. This brought about a 6-mile hike back to get a tractor to pull the damn thing out of the ditch, and a scalp and the lug for the aforementioned John Sharp, who happened to ridicule Mickey about it. And as we know, Mickey doesn't like to be ridiculed. Luckily for the insurance, there wasn't a scratch on the vehicle, though before I returned it to Isuzu, I did a quick search. I did find several empty cans of Vimto, half a dozen fishing lures, and a copy of Reader's Wives magazine, Castle Douglas version, under the seat. He has never admitted to any of these.
He didn't give me back.
No, because some of you are clients of the Despite the fact that seasoned pescadors have a limited attention span, Michael did reasonably well once he'd been tutored in some of the more proper ways to fish. It was soon evident to him that fly fishing and drinking at the same time were incompatible. So, after a half-hearted stab at being a gentleman, he joined the rest of us in throwing tons of metalwork out the back of a boat, trolling around with our feet up, and a drink in hand, discussing some of the more liberal topics of the day. These and other fun-filled stories are duly recorded in our famous book, well, we think it's famous, called Piscadors, the First 25 Years. This is not for the squeamish, though I can exclusively reveal tonight that the reference made by the late J.B. Houston to one Porky Coots within this tome, and which earned him a clout in the lug from Michael at the book launch in the King's Armoured CD, was in fact not attributable to the hapless J.B. This had been added during the editing process by one Large William and myself, with much schoolboy tittering at the time. And during a way we had to fend for ourselves. Anne and family might be astounded to know that Mickey proved very proficient in keeping the house clean, cooking, and making the best Bloody Marys ever seen. Could I ask, though, Anne, that you give him another dress to wear, as the gold lammy and the slim backs are getting a wee bit tattered and stained. During our trips away, Mickey usually shared with Doral, the late J.B., and was always introduced to unsuspecting strangers as his Batman or valet. A quick peek into the room showed beds neatly made, fresh clothing neatly piled, with all sorts of perfume and lipstick abounding. We further suspected that Mickey rose very early in the morning to iron shirts and underpants for his lordship. But before all of this sounds like a eulogy at a funeral, I will tell you about the time Mickey died and was fortunate enough to attend his own wake. While up in Noida, can I get a drink, please? No. This is a good bit. I don't want to miss it. So, while we were up in Noida, and after another hard day's fishing, as you can imagine, we had returned to base camp to hear the phone ringing. There's no mobile phone signal in Noida, so you have to rely. It's actually a fantastic thing for people to go away and not have a phone signal. You get kind of used to it after 2 days. George Barrow would be aghast at this kind of stuff. He wouldn't know where his next billion was coming from. But the phone rang in the house and it was Emma for Donald. And Donald took the phone outside at her behest. We thought he was in for a bollocking or something. There was something they'd done before he left. But once the necessary questions like, how is Mickey, were dispensed with and answered, she revealed that there had been a rumour circulating in the stewardship that Michael Coots had died while on holiday. This nonsense had been purveyed by the owner of a local petrol station, so it wasn't long in getting around it too. Well, we knew for a fact that hadn't happened because he snored all flipping night. He was behaving badly all day, drinking and throwing glasses at people in the boat. So for a deceased, he was making a very good fist of it. So, for the next hour, Mickey spent the next hour on the phone reassuring Anne and the rest of the family that he was fine. Fortunately, Anne had not heard of Michael's demise and therefore had no need to rifle through his papers to find a death in service entitlement or to what pension provision he had made for her. At the King's Arms, Faulty was devastated that he would not get a turn from the wake. As you would expect, this turn of events was duly celebrated long and hard, and just about everybody capable of speech was given their turn to deliver a eulogy. And some of the things we actually said were quite nice. I couldn't believe it. However, this did give Michael, the deceased, the right of reply. And he didn't miss the targets, I can tell you. And I guess he's not going to do that tonight either. But we all found that whatever Michael lacked in the fishing department, he was never very good. We keep trying to teach him how to do it properly, but he won't listen. But he was a thoroughly professional insurance agent for the NFU, and a careful practitioner of the balancing act that you need to have to be a successful NFU secretary. The one thing that Michael and I can definitely agree on is that farmers are fickle bastards to work with. But I think you can all agree that Michael remained himself, true to his work, true to the service to you, through some of the thick and thin that he's had to put up with, apart from putting up with you lot. And the NFU, I think, is becoming to realise again that their biggest assets are their people. Too many businesses these days, and mine is included, they believe that their asset is a computer program and an algorithm. And they tend to forget that people are the foundation of their business. And I believe that will soon turn its head and come back again. So along with everyone else, I'd like to wish Michael and Anne a happy retirement with their caravan. Already they have braved the open road and travelled far and wide, as far as Gatehouse. And we can only hope that his new drop-side transit will come in useful for his itinerant trade of tarring driveways. So I would just like to ask you to join with me in a wee toast. Here's to a long and happy retirement for Michael and Anne, and the rest of the family still have to put up with him. Well done.